Hello all, welcome to my channel. I am Vivek Gaurav and I'll be teaching you dynamic programming. And before we proceed further, a humble request from my side. Please like and subscribe to my channel and also click on the bell icon so that you get notified every time a new video is coming up. Now, let's get started.
Today we are going to talk about Python functions, and the topics we are going to cover today is that what is function calling, what is type of argument, and what is return statement. And this is going to be a long video because we are going to talk about functions in lot of detail. So again, I'll suggest you to stop the video from time to time and keep on doing the practice with me. Okay, so now let's start. So now function, what is a function? Now you must be wondering that why I have put this this picture where we are making a smoothie. Okay, so let's try to understand what is happening here. So it is saying that soften ice cream at room temperature until the consistency is like soft serve, and then add 3 scoops into the blender. Then add 1/4 cups of whole milk as well as 1/4 cups of chocolate syrup and 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract, and blend until smooth and top with whipped cream, sprinkles or a cherry. Right, so this is the whole process. This is basically the whole recipe of how you make a smoothie. Right, this is what it has been given over here. But now what I want you to understand here is that, see, there is a word here called blender. Right, you all know what is a blender. A blender is like a mixture grinder. Right, what it does is that it mixes up the thing. So what you are doing here is that you are giving some ingredients into the mixer grinder, and what it is doing is that it is mixing up the things for you. This is what this blender is doing. Okay, proceeding further, talking about another one. So here we have a sandwich maker. Now in this sandwich maker, what you are doing is that you are giving a sandwich. Okay, not a sandwich basically, but basically you are putting in bread. Okay, you are putting in bread. Then what you are doing is that you are putting in lettuce or something, whatever you like, and then some tomato or something, and other sort of items, whatever you feel like having it. You are putting all these things into a sandwich maker, and what the sandwich maker is doing for you is that it is making a sandwich for you. Right, so this is what the function of a sandwich maker. This is what a sandwich maker does. Now sandwich maker is not going to do what a blender did, and blender is not going to do what a sandwich maker is doing. Right, take another example. Here we have an oven. Right, we all know what an oven does. It bakes the thing. So here what you are doing is that you are putting something into an oven and you are getting out something from the oven. So there is an input for the oven and there is an output for the oven from the oven. Right, input is something which you gives and output is something which the oven is giving it to you. Now in all the other cases also, in a sandwich maker also, you had an input, you had an output. What was the input? Bread, lettuce and tomato was the input. What was the output? The output was a sandwich. Right, this is what you got. Correct. If I talk about blender, here all these items were there, were the input, and what you got, the smoothie, was the output that you wanted to have. So all these specific devices, okay, if I say them devices, then all of these specific devices are doing a specific function, and they are doing it again and again. You can use the mixer grinder, mixer grinder or a blender, infinite times in a day, 20 times, 25 times, 50 times in a day, and it's going to do the same task again and again. Same goes with the sandwich maker. You can use a sandwich maker as many times as you want in a day, and same goes with an oven as well. You can use it as many times as you want in a day. Right, so what they are doing is that they are performing a specific task and they can be reused again and again, and they have something called input and they have something called output. Okay, now remember few things which I am telling you. Remember the input part of a sandwich maker or of an oven, and remember the output part of a sandwich maker and oven. They are taking an input, then they are giving us an output. Second thing which I want you to remember is that reusability, that they can be reused. Okay, so now you understood about these devices. Now let's talk about function in programming language. So functions in programming language is a block of code. Okay, what it is? It is a block of code which performs a specific task. Okay, which performs a specific task, only a specific task, just like a oven is performing a specific task. Similarly, a function is a block of code which performs a specific task and it can be reused. You can reuse it as many times as you want. This is what a function does in a programming language. It is a block of code which performs a specific task and it can be reused as many times as you want. Now a function also may have an input and it may have an output also. Okay, but there the input is termed as different in a different way, and output is termed in a different way. Input in a function, if I talk about function in particular, Okay, so let me just erase everything. If I talk about a function in particular, so the input in a function, what you are giving, okay, what you are giving input, okay, which is an input, it is termed as argument. Okay, it is termed as argument or parameter. Okay, it is termed as argument and parameter. And the output that you are getting from the function, the output that you are getting from the function is called as return type. What is the return type of the function? What is the function returning to you? Okay, so output or return type, input means argument or parameter, either of the things you can call it. Okay, so function, what is a function? It is a block of code which performs a specific task and it can be reused. It takes an argument or a parameter where the number of arguments, how many items it need may differ. Like, if I talk about sandwich maker, the number of argument was different. Bread, lettuce and tomato, 3-4 argument it takes. Oven, it takes 1 argument. Blender, it can take multiple argument, right? But it returns you one thing, which is an output, which is called the return type of a function. Okay, so now I hope that you have a better understanding about function. Now let's understand the technicality behind it. So function in Python. So functions are the most important aspect of any application. Any application that you are making, function is a very important aspect of that. And a function can be defined as the organized block of reusable code. Organized block, you are organizing it, of reusable code, which can be called whenever required. You can call the function whenever you need it. And Python allows us to divide a large program into basic building block, which is known as function. The function contains the set of programming statement enclosed by curly bracket. Now this curly bracket which I have mentioned over here, it is not true in case of Python. If I talk about Python in particular, this curly bracket is not required. But in other programming language, you need this curly bracket. Okay, so what you need in Python, we will discuss about it. But you already know about one thing in Python which is called indentation. Indentation is nothing but the spaces that you give, okay, that your spaces that you give to make sure that that particular line belongs to a particular code. That is what indentation is, a tab space or certain amount of spaces that you give, that is called indentation. So a function can be called multiple times to provide reusability and modularity to the Python program. The function makes it, the function is a reusable component. Okay, so the function helps to programmer to break the program into smaller part. Okay, it helps the programmer to break a large program into smaller part, and it organizes the code very effectively and avoids repetition of the code. Repetition of the code it avoids. Now how does it avoid repetition? Let's try to understand that. Okay, so let's suppose that you have a program where you want to find prime number. Okay, you want to find prime number. Now let's suppose the number of lines of code for prime number, number of lines for program prime number is 7 lines of code that you have written. Now this 7 lines of code, this prime number has to be used 100 times. 100 times you have to find this prime number. So how many times you are going, how many lines of code you are gonna write? If you are gonna write this 7 lines of code 100 times, it is gonna be 700. Right, it is going to be how many times? 700 lines of code has to be written. But just imagine what you did is that you created a function. For prime number. Okay, for prime number. Now here also you wrote 7 lines of code. Here also you wrote 7 lines of code. 7 lines of code you wrote, right? But now what you can be done is that this function can be called 100 times. So if I am calling this function 100 times, 100 times of the function call plus 7 lines of code which was there, total number of lines is 107. So now you are able to achieve the task in 107 lines of code, which earlier was taking 700 lines of code. Of course, the example that I am giving is not a very valid one, but just imagine, right? There can be many such instances where a similar kind of use case is coming, and in that case, how many lines of code you can save just by writing one function of 7 lines and calling it every time. So function calling means, you are writing one line, so 100 lines plus 7 lines of code that you have written, total of 107. Earlier, you were writing this 7 lines of code 100 times, and that was 700 lines of code. Right, now you might say that why we are not using a loop. Loop you can use only when you have to repeat certain things. This function, this prime number concept was used, in multiple places across the program. It was used in line number 1, line number 17, line number 24. That in that case you cannot use a loop, right? So there comes the repetition of the code. There it avoids the repetition. So this is the advantage of function. Now I hope that you are understanding it in a better way. So proceed further. So as the program grows, function makes the program more organized. And Python function provides us inbuilt functions like range functions or print function that we have already used. right, that we have already used. Although the user can create its function, which can also be called user defined function. So now you are getting one more thing. What is that thing? There are two types of functions that is there. There are mainly two types of function. One is called user defined function and this is called built-in function. Let's take this extreme example that these devices are available in the market. Right, these devices are available in the market. You can directly go and bring a oven, you can bring a sandwich maker, you can bring a blender, you can directly purchase it and start using it. But let's suppose that there is one such device that is not available in the market and you thought of making it, you thought of creating it for your own purpose. Now in India we know that we are all, we are all jugaru person, right? We use this word jugar like anything, so we make our own things, right? So what you are making, that are called user defined. So the user defined functions are those that are defined by the user to perform the specific task. It will perform a specific task which you are making. On the other hand, built-in functions are those functions that are predefined in the Python, that the Python has already given it to you. Like we have already used print function, we have already used type function, right? We have already used type function, we have already used id function, we have already used so many, we have used input, right? We have already used so many functions by now, right? So in this video we are going to focus only on user defined function, that what is user defined function, how you create it, what is argument, what is return type, and many more things. Okay, in the next video we are going to talk about built-in function. Okay, so now I hope you know what is a function. Let's revise this once again. Block of code. Okay, what it is? A block of code which performs a specific task, and it can be reused. A specific task and it can be reused. This is what a function does. Now proceed further. What is the advantage of function? So using function we can avoid rewriting the same logic code again and again in a program. We already discussed that, right? We can avoid rewriting the same logic or code again and again in a program. Second thing is that we can call Python function multiple times in a program and anywhere in the program. Everywhere you need it, you call that. Anywhere you need it, you call it. You call it multiple times. Python is not going to have any problem with that. Okay. Third thing is that we can track a large Python program easily when it is divided into multiple functions. So what happens is that when you create multiple functions, the tasks become very simple. If there is a problem arising in one point, you know where the problem can be, right? So it becomes, tracking of the whole problem becomes very simple. The fourth thing is that reusability is the main achievement of Python function. You can reuse it again and again, that we have already discussed. However, there is one disadvantage also. Function calling is always an overhead in a Python program. It is always an overhead. It is always an extra burden in a Python program. Okay, so these are the advantages of Python, of a Python function. Now let's proceed further, that how do you create a function? That's the most important thing. So now Python provides the def keyword. Now if you do not remember the keyword, let me remind it to you. Reserved words. Keywords are reserved words which have a special meaning in the memory of the computer, right? So there is a word called def. Okay, there is a word called def. Using def keyword you can create your own function. How do you do that? So you write the def keyword and then you give it a name, like my function. This is the name of the function. This is the name of the function that you have created. Okay, this is the name of the function that you have created. So def keyword my function, and within the bracket you give parameter. Now parameter can be multiple. You can have one parameter, two parameter, three parameter, or you can have zero parameter also. Okay, so that depends. After that what you do is that you put colon so that the indentation will come into picture. Then you write the function block, whatever you need to write, and then you write a return expression which your function is going to return. Now not necessarily your function is going to return a value every time. Not necessarily that it will return. Not necessarily that your function will have a parameter also. Okay, so we'll try to understand that throughout this video, that what is a parameter, how to pass it, how to create, how to have it, right, and how you can have a return type and how you cannot have a return type as well. We'll discuss on those things. But now we know how to create a function. How do you create a function? You write def keyword, then you write the name of the function, like I am writing my fun, then you give a bracket and then you put a colon and start writing the program that your function is supposed to do. Okay. So now let's understand the syntax of the function. So the def keyword along with the function name is used to define the function. We already know by now. identifier rule must follow the function name. Your function name again cannot start with a number. It must start with a alphabet. It cannot have a special character. All those things, the identifier rule that you have in Python, the same goes with the function name. And a function accepts the parameter which is called argument, and they can be optional. It is not mandatory that you must have a parameter with you. Okay, it depends on the different use case, whether you should have a parameter or you should not have a parameter. That you will learn with practice. Okay, now let's proceed further. So the function block is started with the colon, right? You give a colon after the function name, and from there the block start, just like it you are starting an if statement or a loop like for or while, right? There also you were giving a colon to create a block. Similarly, in order to create a function block, what you do is that you put a colon, and block statement must be at the same indentation. All the block statement must be at the same indentation. Now the return statement is used to return the value. Whatever your function is returning, like we were talking about sandwich maker. So sandwich maker was returning a sandwich to you, or oven was returning a baked item to you. So that is the return value of a function. A function can have only one return value. Remember that a function can have only one return value. It cannot have more than that. Proceeding further, how do you call a function? Now you must be wondering that why we are not doing practical. Just hold on for a minute, we'll do everything. Okay, let's understand each and everything, because just by writing a function you will not be able to see the output. You need to call that function also. Just like you brought a blender or you brought an oven in your house, it is not gonna bake the things for you until unless you are gonna use it, right? So using a device is just like function calling. Using a device is just like function calling. So in Python, after the function is created, remember that after the function has been created, we can call it from another function. We can call it from another function or another part of the program. And a function must be defined before the function call. In order to use a device, the device must exist. Then only you can use a device. Similarly, a function must be defined before the function call, otherwise the Python interpreter gives an error. And to call the function, use the function name followed by the parenthesis. How do you call a print function? You write print, and then you put a bracket, and then you write whatever you want to write inside it, right? Similarly, when you are creating your own function, you have a name which you have given. My function, that is the name of the function that you have given. So write my name and then put a parenthesis, and this is how you call a function. Okay, consider the example of a simple example that prints the message hello world. Now you see here, what we are doing is that we are writing the def keyword, and then what is the name of the function? The name of the function that I have over here is called hello world. Okay, then I put a parenthesis, because in order to make it a function we need to put a parenthesis. Then I put a colon. Now you see here there is no parameter. There is no parameter here. There is no parameter. It means what? This function is not accepting anything. There is no input given to that function. No need of that. And what this function is doing is that it is directly printing a message hello world. How do you call a function? See, after the indentation, after coming out of the indentation, I am directly writing the name of the function followed by the parenthesis. Hello world was the name of the function. I gave the hello world along with the parenthesis, and you will get a message hello world. So let's go to the editor and write this program. So def is the keyword, my function is the name that I am creating, no parameter given, putting a colon to create a block, and here this function is just gonna write, hi, creating spelling is wrong, creating a function. Okay, then put enter, come out of the bracket, and then call this function here like this. And now when you run it, can you see we are creating a function? It is giving you a message, we are creating a function, right? So what did you do? Check it once again. What did you do? First of all, you use the def keyword. Then after that you wrote the name of the function, which was my function in my case. Then you put a colon, and then you write whatever you wanted to do. You wanted to print a message, so you wrote hi there, right? And then you closed it. And then in order to call the function, what you did is that you just wrote the name of the function, which was my function, followed by the parenthesis. So what is happening is that from here the compiler is jumping there. Now let's understand how the compiler is working. So now what happens is that here the Python interpreter will directly not go into the function. What will happen is that it will come in this particular line first, line number 4. Okay, directly it will come there, because this is where the main program is starting basically. And from here it will go to the function where we have defined. So now you see from line number 4 it jumped to line number 2, and this is called overhead basically. This is the overhead part we were talking about in the advantages of function. So a Python function is always an overhead, okay? And now it will come back to that particular line from where it was called. So what's happening over here is that, if you'll understand, whenever the function calling is done, the interpreter takes the control back to the line where the function definition is start, it executes all the block of code, and then it takes back the control back to line where the from where the function was called. Okay, so this is how the function basically is created, and you call a function, and this is how internally the function, the interpreter is traveling from one line to another line. Now proceeding further, now here let's talk about return statement. What is this return statement? So the return statement is used at the end of the function and returns the result of the function. Just like in a sandwich maker, the final output is what? It is a sandwich. In the blender, what is the final output? The mixed item. In the oven, what is the final output? The baked item, right? Similarly, the return statement is used at the end of the function and returns the result of the function, because every function is going to do a particular task, and it should give you a result. It should give you a result. Whether it returns you or not, that's a different thing, but there is a result. Like in this case, if you will see what this function was doing, it was printing a message. That was the result of this function. It was printing a message that, hi, we are creating a function. That was the result of this message. Okay, so it returns the result of the function, and it terminates the function execution. Once the return statement has been encountered, right, it terminates the function execution. The function execution stops there and transfers the result where the function is called, from where the function was called. This is just now we saw that how the transfer is happening. And the return statement cannot be used outside the function. You cannot write a return statement outside a function. How do you use the return statement? Simple, you write return keyword followed by the expression list that you want to return. Now it can contain the expression which gets evaluated, and value is returned to the caller function, whichever called it. Like in our case, what was the caller, from where it was getting called? It was getting called from this particular path. I can call it as a main function also. I can call it as a main function also, right? Because from here only the Python interpreter is starting. This is a function that we have defined. It does not go there, but it knows that there is a function which is going to encounter later on. Okay, it works like that. Okay, so it will return, once the task has been done, it will return back to this particular line. So this is how the function return statement works. So it can contain the expression which gets evaluated, and value is returned to the caller function from where it was called. If the return statement has no expression or does not exist itself in the function, then it returns the none object. What it returns? It returns a none object. We will see that. Okay, let's try to see that. Like in our case, here you see, read it once again. If the return statement has no expression or does not exist. So in our case, we do not, the return statement does not exist, right? So it should return a none object. Let's try to see that whether it is returning it or not. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to write print my function. Okay, so whatever this function is returning, I'm going to print that, and anyway I'm calling that function. So now you see what happens. We are creating a function because the function was called, so it printed this, and this print statement of the function, it returned you what? It returned you a none object. In case you want to check it one more time, you can use like x equal to myfun. So now whatever our function that you have created, myfun, it is returning a value which we are storing it in x, and now we are printing x. Now we are printing s. So here also you will see that we are getting none only. So it means what? Your function is returning a value. What is that return value? It is return value is none. Why it is none? Because in our function there was no return statement. There was no return statement. Since there was no return statement, that is the reason it is returning you what? It is returning you a none object. Okay, so now I hope that you know about what is return type, and if you do not return, what the function is going to return to you, it is going to return a none object. Okay, now let's take this example. Here what we are doing is that we are defining a function using the def keyword. The name of the function is sum. We took two variables, a equal to 10, b equal to 20. We took another variable c, and we are writing c equal to a plus b. And now what we are doing is that we are returning this c. Since we are returning this, when we write the print statement, print the sum is sum. So this sum is returning a value. What it is returning? In our case 30, right? In our case c, which is 30. So this will be replaced by 30, right? Like here, let's suppose that here I write the function is returning a value called, okay, and here if I use this, myfun function, right, what will I get? I will get none. What will I get? I will get none. You see, none. But now let's delete all these things and let's create a function called mySum, okay, which is not going to accept a parameter. I have a variable called a equal to 10, I have a variable called b equal to 20, I have a variable called c equal to a plus b. And then what I'm doing is that I am using a return statement a plus b. Now outside the function what I'm doing is that I am directly printing first of all the sum is, and now you see when I call mySum, okay, it is going to return me what? It is going to return me 30. Can you see that it is returning me 30, which was not happening earlier? Why? Because return statement is missing. Now what I do always is that, and why I suggest all of my student as well, is that since a function is returning, it is always a good idea to keep a variable like this and then call the function. So what will happen here is that, whatever your function is returning, it is gonna stored in a variable called x. Let's suppose that if I am giving something to you, then you must have something to hold that. Let's suppose I am giving 2 liters of water to you, then you must have a container where you can hold that 2 liters of water, isn't it? Right? That's the reason it's always a good habit. It's just a good habit. It's not that it's compulsory. It's just a good habit to have a variable where you can store it, and then you use and you print that variable if you want to print that. So here, since my x is storing the value which my function is returning, so here I'm gonna print x, and now if I run this, then also I'll get the same thing. The sum is 30. Okay, the sum is 30. This is what I am getting, and this is what I was supposed to get also. So this is how the return statement works. Make sure that the return statement is always the last statement of the program. There is nothing after that in the function, not the program but in the function. Okay, and since the function is returning something, it is always a good habit to keep a variable where you can store that. Now proceeding further. So in the above code, we have defined the function named sum, though we created a function called mySum, and it has a statement c equal to a plus b, which computes the given values like 10 plus 20 is equal to 30, and the result is returned by the return statement to the caller function, right? And since the return was result by the caller function, what we did is that we created a variable and then we called the function, right, which was a good habit, and then we printed this x, right? Then also we got the same result. Okay, so this is how the return statement works. Let's take another example here, creating function without return statement. Here you are doing sum equal, define sum, def keyword sum, and then a equal to 10, b equal to 20, c equal to a plus b. And when you try to print sum, you are going to get none. Okay, we have already seen that, but let's see it one more time. Just remove this statement or make it commented. And now you see what you are getting. You will get none. The sum is none. Why? Because your function is not returning anything. Okay, so this is how the return statement works. If you do not have it, it is going to return you an object called none. Now in the above code, we have defined the same function without the return statement, as we can see that the sum function returned the none object to the caller function since there was no return statement. So now I hope that you know how your return statement works in a function and how important this return statement is. Talking about the next topic that we have, what is an argument in a function? So just to remind you that argument are those input that you give out to a function to make it work. Okay, let's suppose that you want to find the sum of two numbers which the user is giving to you. Now since the user is giving you a number, you must pass those two numbers to the function, then only the output will come. Just like in order to make a sandwich maker, you needed a bread, you needed a lettuce, you needed a tomato. These were the input given. Similarly, in a function, you might give some input and then you do some manipulation. Okay, let's try to understand that. So the arguments are the types of information. What it is a type of information which can be passed into the function, which you can pass into the function, and the arguments are specified in the parenthesis. What is parenthesis? This is small bracket. This is called parenthesis, and we can pass any number of argument, but they must be separated by a comma. There is no limit on the number of argument. You can pass 1 argument, 2 argument, 3 argument, 4 argument, like that, or even a 0 argument, but all the argument must be separated by a comma. Let's take this example which contains a function that accepts a string as an input, as an argument. So here we have created a function called func using the def keyword. Then in the argument we have one argument. How many argument? One argument. What is the name of the argument? The name of the argument is name itself. What we are doing with that argument? We are printing that argument with hi message, hi and then name. Now when we are calling this function, since it was accepting an argument, we have to pass an argument. We have to pass an argument. So we called func, func, and then we passed a variable here, or we passed a string here directly. So what it is giving you now, this variable got copied here, and what it is giving you, it is giving you Devans. Let's try to understand this first and then we will come back. Okay, so here what I am doing is that here I have def keyword and I am creating my function. This is the name. It is taking one parameter called name. Now in the name what I am doing is that I am giving a message hi. There is no return type to this function, just hi name. Now outside the function I am calling this function and I am giving a message called Vivek. Okay, now what it is gonna do is that it is gonna write hi Vivek. Now not necessarily this value, this argument or parameter that you are passing should be a string always. It can be a number also, right? But in that case, you must do some other manipulation. Like here, if I'll pass number, of course, like, let's check that. If I pass 3, then it is gonna do what? It is gonna give you hi 3. This is what it is gonna give you. It is just gonna concatenate that, right? Okay, but what I was trying to tell you is that you can have an object also. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create message is equal to, and I'm gonna write Python, and I'm gonna pass this message which is having a value called Python in it into the function as an argument. Okay, so now you see I'm getting hi Python. Can you see? How did I pass? I passed message Python, right? I passed a variable called message which was having a value in it called Python. Now here in the name that value got copied and then this message is getting printed hi Python. Okay, so let's try to understand this here. So what happens is that now here you see you have one parameter when you are calling the function. This is function calling, right? This is function calling. This is where you are calling the function calling, and there also you have a parameter. There also you have a parameter, right? There also you have a parameter. Here you also have a parameter here as well. You have a parameter here as well, but that is function definition. That is function definition, right? There, that is function definition. Now these two parameters are different. These two parameters are different. One of them is called the actual parameter. The other is called formal parameter. Okay, now how actual parameter works and how formal parameter works, let's try to understand that part. Okay, so now when you are calling this function, what happens is that there was let's understand in the concept of a container. So you created a container called message which was a variable. Here you had Python in it. Now what happened is that when you created this variable, when you created this whole function, Python created another container, another variable called name. Now when you are calling this function here with a message Python in it, so the container message is transferring its data to the container name, and here also this Python is getting copied. Understanding now? So what is happening is that this value is being passed, this value is being referred over there, right? This value is being referred over there. Now let us try to understand it in more detail. Now your next question can be, can I have the same name of the parameter in both the places? And the answer is that yes, of course you can have it. Let's try that. Okay, I have the same name in both the things. In the function definition also I have the same variable name, same parameter name. In the main function also, when I'm calling that, then also I have the same parameter name. Now if I run it, okay, you see my fun is not defined. Why my fun is not defined? Why I am getting this? Let me run it again. See how Python is coming. Can you see hi Python is coming, right? So you are getting a message hi Python. Okay, now let's try to print the ID of both the name. Does it have the same ID or does it have the same different ID? Okay, you already know this ID function, right? So I'm going to print the ID of both the name, and let's try to check whether they have the same ID or they have a different ID. Can you see? 262502316640, 262502316650. Both have the same ID. Now why both have the same ID? Because both of them are referring to the same object. Okay, now if I change the name here, let's suppose I change it to ID, and here, okay, I cannot use ID there. Okay, so let me make it, message. This is the variable that I am using, message. Okay, this is the variable name and message. Now if I try to run this program, right, now also you see, although they have a different name, but they still have the same ID. Why? Because in Python, you know that when you create a variable, it refers to an object. And both of them are referring to the same object, Python. That is the reason the ID of both of them are same. Understanding now? Right? So this is how what you could do is that you pass an argument. Okay, there are two name sets. One is formal parameter, the other is actual parameter. The actual parameter is the one which you are actually passing. So in our case, what is the parameter that we are actually passing? This is the one we are actually passing, right? This is a formal one which has been used to declare it, which has been used to define it. Okay, so formal is for formality, actual is the one which you are passing. Okay, actual parameter is the one which you are passing into the function. So that is called actual parameter. Okay, so now proceeding further from here and going into the presentation and talking about the next topic that we have, or the next example that we have. So continuing ahead, and we were talking about formal parameter and actual parameter, right? So formal parameter, actual parameter, let me explain it to you once again. The formal parameter is the one which is used in the function definition. In the function definition, you have a parameter that is called function definition. This is where we are defining the function. So this is called a formal parameter. Okay, this is called formal parameter. Okay, and the one where you are calling the function, this is the place of function call, this is where you are calling the function, right? So there whatever argument you are passing, that is called actual parameter. Okay, always remember that actual parameter and formal parameter both can have the same name. There is no hard and fast rule that they must be different or something like that. There is nothing like that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the topic that we have, which is argument in function, example 2. So now here you see what we are doing. We are creating a function called sum and we are passing two parameter in it. Now there we are passing two parameter. In the last one we passed one parameter. However, we are passing two parameters separated by a comma, and we are having a return statement also. We are directly returning a plus b. Now we are taking the two input from the user, a equal to int input enter a, b equal to int input enter b. And now we are printing print sum equal to sum, and then we are passing a and b here. Right, we are passing a and b here. Okay, so let's make this program and then understand it. Okay, so here def and then my sum, and then you have two parameter a comma b, because these are the two input that you are taking from the user, and then you are directly writing return a plus b. That is the only thing you are doing. Now in the here, after the function has been defined, you are taking the two parameter, two input from the user, int input, and then asking enter first number, right, enter first number, right, this is what you are doing, and then you are taking b equal to int, and then you are taking input, and then you are taking enter second number, right? Second spelling is wrong, let me correct that. Now what you are doing is that print the sum is, either you can do like this, or you can have a variable called result equal to my sum, and then you pass two variable a comma b to it. Okay, and here when you are writing, when you are printing, you print what? You print that result, right? You print that result. Okay, so now if I run this program, it will ask me two number. So first I gave 5, the other number I gave 4, and then it returned me 9. The sum is 9. Now you see here, both a and b have the, like, both the formal parameter and the actual parameter have the same name. They have the same name. So what is being happening is that here the value which was here, it is being copied. The a value is being copied to a, and the b value is being copied to b. You remember that? Okay, a value is being copied to a. The sequence matters. The sequence matters. The way you have given a parameter, that matters. Okay, let's try to have a, okay, that we will cover later. Don't worry about that. That we'll cover anyway later into this video, when we will talk about arguments in detail. Now, so we understood this part, that how to find the sum of two variables in using a function. Okay. Now there is another topic called call by reference. Now this is a very important topic in Python, call by reference. Okay. Now in other programming language we have this topic, and this topic has been divided into two parts. Let's try to understand that first, and then we will come here. But before that, I want to show you one thing. What will happen if you do not give the two parameter here? What happens if you give just only one parameter? You will get an error. You will get an error, and the error is that my sum missing one required positional argument b. What is positional argument? You passed one argument, so that happened that it is accepting as a. The other argument which you have declared was b, but you are passing only one value, so it is saying that the first value that you passed was for a. So the second value which was supposed to come for b is missing. That is the reason it is giving you a message, missing one required positional argument b. It is missing one required positional argument called b, which you are not passing. Okay, so make sure that you always pass the actual number of parameter which is there in the function, which you have defined in the function. Okay, so now if I run this, right, it is going to give me the correct answer. Okay, now let's come back to the topic of call by reference and call by value. So what happens is that in other programming language there is a concept, like in C, C++, we have two topics. One is called call by value, okay, call by value, and the other is called call by reference, okay, and call by reference. Now these are two different things, and it is a very favorite topic of the interviewer. They always ask you like, what is call by value, what is call by reference, how does they work, because it is conceptual based. Okay, so let's try to understand this call by value and call by reference in detail first, then we will talk about call by reference in Python, that how that is work here. Okay, so let's take an example that you prepared a document. Okay, you prepared a document. This is a master document that you prepared, a master document. Okay, this document has been prepared by you. Now what you wanted to do is that you wanted it to be reviewed by someone. You wanted it to be reviewed by someone. So what you did is that you created a duplicate copy. You created a duplicate copy or a Xerox copy of this document. Okay, you created a duplicate copy or a Xerox copy. Or let's try to understand in a different way, that you have this master document in your machine, in your system, in your PC, in your laptop, a Word document. You want it to be reviewed by your teacher, so you send it on the mail. Okay, you send it on the mail. So the mail that you send is a duplicate copy, right? It is a duplicate copy that has been sent. So you sent a duplicate copy to the reviewer who is reviewing this document. Now what this reviewer did is that he downloaded this document and he made certain changes to it. He made certain changes, right? Now this changes is this changes that he has made is in his machine, right? Is his local. This is his local, and this is your local, right? This is your local machine. Now whatever changes he has made, will it be reflected to your master document? And the answer is that no, because what changes he has made in a copy of that document that you created and send it, right? But what changes you have made, that is there with you. What changes he has made, that is there with him. That is not coming to get reflected into your document. This is how the call by value works. Call by value. In call by value, what happens is that you create a copy. You create a copy of a variable that you are passing to a function. Okay, you create a copy of a variable. So you have a here called 20, and then you are passing this 20. You are passing this 20 to another variable which can have a name A. That is different thing. But you are passing this variable copy 20. He is making it to 30. Will your value also get reflected? Of course not. Why? Because whatever changes he made in his local machine, which has nothing to do with this A which you have with you. Okay, but let's take another example. Okay, let's take another example. In the other example, what you did is that you created a Google document, you created, and you shared this document link with the reviewer. So this is you are making the master document, this is the master document, and the reviewer is also logging in, and both of us are making the changes in the same one. So now whatever changes your reviewer is making in your document, you have it with you. What you are doing, you also have it with you. Why? Because both of them are working on the same copy. There are no two duplicate copies that has been created. In the last example, what was happening is that two duplicate copies was getting created, but here only one copy is getting created, is being shared by both of you. I can say that shared by both of you, right? This is what happens in call by reference. So in call by reference, what happens is that in call by reference, what you do is that when you create a variable, called e equal to 20, instead of passing the value which you were doing when you were using call by value, you pass the reference of this, that what is the address of this variable. You pass that address, you pass the reference or the address to the other function, and whatever he is doing in that address, it will get reflected here. If he made it 30, then your variable also became 30, your a became 30 now, right? This is what call by reference works. So in call by value, you pass the value, okay, you just pass the duplicate value. In call by reference, you actually pass the reference, you pass the address of it. Okay, so this is how call by value and call by reference works in other programming language. Now let's come back to call by reference in Python. So in Python, call by reference means passing the actual value as an argument in the function. What you are doing is that you're passing the actual value of the argument as a function, okay, and all the functions are called by reference. That is, all the changes made to the reference inside the function, all the changes made to the reference inside the function revert back to the original value referred by the reference. All the changes that you are making, since both of you have the same object, both of you have the same document, so all the changes that you are making, it is getting reverted back to the original value which was referred by the reference, which the reference was referring to, right? So the document which you created, you were there, your reviewer was there, both of us were working in the same document, both of us are working in the same document. So any changes that has been made to the reference by the reviewer is getting revert back to the original which is referred by the reference. This is what referrer was referring to, right? So now I hope that you understand what is call by value and call by reference. Let's try to understand this with an example here. So here in the first example we are passing a list. So now here what you see, here we created a function called change underscore list and we are passing a list object to it. We are adding list1 dot append, list2 dot append. We are adding two values to it and we are printing the list. Print list inside the function is list1. Now here outside the function we are defining the list and we are having 10, 30, 40, 50 in it. Now we are calling the list. We are calling the function change underscore list and then we are printing again list outside the function. Now let's see what will happen. Here when the list was declared and when the function was called, so the interpreter will come here, it will add two items to it. So the list already had 10, 30, 40 and 50 in it. Now one more item will get added called 20 and one more item will get added called 30. So when you print the list here, this is what the list will contain, right? But when you try to print the list here, there also it will have the same value 10, 30, 40, 50, 20 and 30. Reason being is that both the list were the same. Both the list were the same. This is what call by reference means. Okay. Second thing is that list is immutable. You can edit it, you can change it, right? So this is what will happen. Let's try to run this program and understand how it works. Okay, so let me take you to the editor. Let me create a list called li equal to, or let me define a function called change underscore list, and here we will have a list item and I'm going to write list dot append 100 to it, and then I'm going to write list dot append, okay, 200 to it or 230 to it, and then I'm going to write print the list inside the function is, inside the function is, and I'm going to print this li. Okay, now outside the function I'm going to create the list. List is going to have 10 comma 20 comma 30 comma 40. These are the four values that I'm having. Now I'm calling that function called change underscore list, passing the list as the parameter, and now here I'm printing the list outside the function is, and here I'm printing this li again. Now you see what will happen. You see both the list has the same value. Both the list has the same object, although you added it here, right? But since the same list was being referred to by both of them, right, whatever changes you made inside the function, that is you added this 100 here and 300 here, 230 here, it is being reflected back in this list also, which is there outside. Understood now? This is how the call by reference works. Okay, but there is a trick here. What is that trick? Let's try to understand it with the help of another example where we are passing a string object to it. So here we are creating a function def change underscore string and we are passing a string. Now we all know that string is immutable. Okay, just remember that word immutable. Now here what we are doing is that we are making str equal to str plus how are you. So we are adding something to that existing string, which we can do, right, which we can do. And here we are printing the string inside the function str. Now outside the function we created the string equal to hi I am there, and then I'm calling the function change underscore string and passing that string that we created just now, and again we are printing the string outside the function and printing that variable. What will be the output? You will say that sir hi I am there was there, then you added how are you, so hi I am there, how are you will appear in both the cases. This is what you are going to predict, and I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm going to write the program so that you can see what the output is. So change underscore str, and then I'm passing an st object, a string object s, and then I'm writing s is equal to s plus, and then I'm writing how are you. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to print, and I'm printing the string inside the function. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to print s. Now outside the function I'm going to write s equal to hi hello Python. Okay, hello Python. Okay, this is what I'm going to write. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to call the function change str and pass this string object that we have created, and now I'm going to use the print statement again, that printing the string outside the function. Okay, printing the string outside the function, and now I am printing this s. Now you see what is going to happen. You see, printing the string outside inside the function, it is giving hello Python, how are you? But when you are printing it outside, it's just giving you hello Python, not how are you. Why? As per call by reference, it should happen, right? As per call by reference, both the things should get, updated, but it's not happening. And the answer to this question is that the word which I said to you, immutable and mutable. List was mutable, string is immutable. Let's see here. The output of the above two example are different because list is mutable and string is immutable. String is what? Immutable. So an immutable variable cannot be changed once created. Once you have created an immutable variable, you cannot change that. Okay, it cannot be changed. If you wish to change an immutable variable, if it is a dire necessity that you have to, such as a string that you have created and you want to change it, you must create a new instance. You must create a new instance and bind the variable to the new instance. You create a new one and bind it to the new one that you created. But in the case of mutable, it can be changed. Okay, mutable can be changed, but immutable cannot be. And if you want to change it after you have created, you must create a new instance and bind the variable to the new instance. This is how it works in call by reference. Okay, you might feel like it is behaving like call by value. Yes, it does behave like a call by value, but it is not call by value. Why it is not happening? The reason is different. Why? Because your string is an immutable one. That is the reason it is not happening. Now let's proceed further to the next topic that we have, which is types of argument. Okay, so there may be several types of argument which can be passed at the time of function call. When you are calling a function, you can have different types of argument which you can pass. Okay, out of them, the first one is required argument, then we have keyword argument, then we have default argument, variable length argument, and required argument. Okay, required argument got repeated 2 times, right? So basically we have required argument, keyword argument, default argument, and variable length argument. These are the 4 different types of argument that you have. Okay, let's start with the required argument. We have already seen the example of required argument, by the way. So here, required argument. Okay, we are talking about required argument, which is essential, which you must give. Okay, that is the required. So till now we have learned about function calling in Python, that we know. However, we can provide the argument at the time of function call. That also we have seen, that we can provide the argument at the time of function call. So as far as the required arguments are concerned, these are the arguments which are required, which are mandatory, which are essential to be passed at the time of function calling, with the exact match of their position, in the function call and the function definition. The way you have defined in the function call, the how many parameters you have defined and the order in which you have defined, you must pass in the same order and you must pass the same number of parameter. If you change the order or if you change the number, you are going to get an error. Okay, if either of the argument is not provided in the function call or the position of the argument is changed, the Python interpreter will show the error. Okay, so required arguments are those arguments which are required, which are mandatory, because while defining the function you gave certain number of arguments. So when when calling that function, you must also give the same number of argument and their position must also be same. Okay, their position must also be same. If you do not give any of these, if either the number of argument is not matching or their position is not matching, then in either of these case, Python interpreter is going to show you an error. Let's take an example here. Example 1, def keyword function, and we have one parameter name. We are giving message equal to hi plus name. We are returning this message. Now here we are taking an input from the user, name equal to input, enter the name, and then what we are doing is that print function name. So what is going to give? If I am entering John, I am going to give hi John. Let's write this program and understand it. So here def keyword my function. Okay, my function is having a parameter called name and I am creating a message equal to hi, and then I am writing plus name. Okay, I am adding both of them, and then instead of hi I wrote he, so I'll wrote hi and then I'll add name, and then I'm gonna return, not print, return message from here. Okay, since my function is returning a message, I'll create a variable and I'll call this function myfun, and I'll pass a variable Before that, I'll create another variable called name, and I'll take the input from the user. Input, enter the name, okay, and this name where I have taken the user input, I'll pass it here, okay. And now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna print, okay, X. Now you see what will happen. If I run this program, it is asking me name, so I'm writing Python, and now it is giving me hi Python. Can you see? So this is what the required argument is. One argument was there, you passed one argument here. In case you will not pass, what will happen? You already know it is going to give you that, it is going to give you an error message, and what this error message is going to be, it is going to be missing one argument. My function missing one argument, missing one required positional argument, it is clearly saying you positional argument is something which you are missing. What is that? Name. It is telling you that name was the argument name that you created, now name is missing. Okay, so this is how the required argument works. Now proceeding further with another example. Here you see the function simple interest accepts 3 argument and returns simple interest accordingly. So def simple interest PTR. The first is principal, the second is time, the third is rate of interest. What you are returning? The formula, you put them everything into the formula, P multiplied by T multiplied by R divided by 100. Now here you are taking the user input and converting it into float. Input, enter the principal amount, enter the rate of interest, enter the time of year, and you are passing in the order PRT. PRT. Now you see here PTR is what you declared. So P will get copied to P, R that you are passing will be copied to R, and T that you are passing will be copied to R. So here it will differ, right? It will differ because we passed it in a different order. Let's try to understand that. Okay, so here I'm gonna change this. Okay, simple interest. Okay, simple interest is the function name that I am creating, which is having P comma R comma T. Okay, now since there is a multiplication, it won't differ. Since there is a multiplication, it is not going to differ, right? Because all the 3 things are getting multiplied. So there won't be a much difference even if you change the order in this particular program. Okay, in this particular program, even if you change the order, it is not going to differ. Okay, so now here what I'm going to do is that return what? P multiplied by R multiplied by T divided by 100. This is what we are doing. And now what we are doing here is that let's have 3 variables. P is equal to float and then input, and then ask enter the P, okay, and then I'll just copy paste it to save the time, right? So control C, control V, and then what happened? Control V, and then change it to R, and then change it to, you know, this to T, and then at the end you change it this to T, and here you change it to R. Now now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create a variable SI equal to, call that simple interest, pass P comma R comma T to it, and then you print the SI is, and then you print that SI. Okay, here let's write principal is equal to 1000, rate of interest as 10, and year as 1. I'm getting 100. Okay, now if I run this program and I change that, since it is the multiplication, it's not gonna differ. Let me write, you know, 1 as the first one, principal as 1, 100 as the rate, right, and 100 as the time, then also I'm getting 100. Now you must be wondering, sir, so it means like, you know, you can pass it in any order. No, that is not the point. Okay, if you want to see how it is coming, let's print here, print the value of P comma I comma R, P comma T, P comma R comma T is, and let's try to print here P comma T comma R, right? Then you will understand. No? Now you will understand what you are passing here and what is being copied here. So here let's suppose I am passing 1, P as 1, R as 100, and T as 100. Now you see what is being. So P value is 1, right? R value is 100 and T value is 100. Why? Because I am passing in the same order. This is what the order it has been defined, PRT. So the first parameter is going to be principal only, no matter what you pass. The second parameter is going to be rate only, and the third parameter is going to be time only, because this is what we are passing here. Understanding? And the result is not differing. Why? Because the calculation is like that, it is all multiplication. So you multiply first with third or third with second, how does it matter? It is going to be same thing, right? So this is how it is. Now proceeding further, and we got this output. Okay, here look at this, another example. So the function calculate returns the sum of 2 argument a and b. Here we have def calculate a comma b, and we are returning a plus b. And here while calling the function, we are just writing one argument, other argument is missing, and this will cause an error because we are missing a required argument. It is a required argument. You already mentioned that you need two parameters to calculate it, but you are giving only one parameter. So it is missing the essential parameter, the required parameter. So you're going to give a message, calculate missing one required positional argument b, that we have already seen. So I'm not going to make this program now. I'm going to go ahead and coming back to the next topic, which is called default argument. So now Python allows us to initialize the argument at the function definition. What Python allows you is that you initialize a argument at the function definition. Okay, you initialize it, and if the value of any argument is not provided at the time of function call, and you have initialized it, and now when you are calling that function, that time if you are not providing any of the argument, right, and you are not providing any of the argument, then that argument can be initialized with the value given in the definition, even if the argument is not specified in the function call. I don't know whether you understood it or not, but let me explain it to you again. Let's suppose that you have a function called def, and then here you have a function called, name. Okay, and here you have two parameter a comma b. Now the point is that if you, while calling the function, you have to give these two parameter a comma b. If you miss any of them, you are going to get an error. The error is that you are missing one of the required positional argument. But now what Python allows you to do is that you initialize a variable, you initialize an argument, okay, and then if you miss it, then whatever value you have initialized it, that I'm gonna use. How it is gonna do that? Let us check over here. So here you see what we are doing is that we are writing def print me, and we have two parameter. One is name, which is a normal parameter. The other one is a default parameter. This is what you are creating as default parameter. You are giving a default value to it, default value to it. What is the default value of the age? You gave age is equal to 22. So Python now understand that, okay, the second parameter is going to be age, which is going to have a value called 22. Okay, and what you are giving, what you are doing in the function, you are just displaying my name is name and age is 22. Now when you are calling that function, you are just giving one parameter. Can you see name equal to John? You are just giving one parameter. Now you will be asking that why you are writing name equal to John. Okay. Now this is another kind of argument that we are going to read later, but understand that you can do like that also. Okay, you can do like that also. Let's try to run this program now. Okay, let's try to run this program. So here we created def my fun, okay, which is going to have name, and I'm going to have another parameter called age is equal to 22. This is what the default value default argument I provided, right? Okay, let us make another function sum, and let's have a comma b equal to 30. Okay, this is what I gave the default argument. Now what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to return a plus b. This is what I'm returning. Okay, now since my function is returning a variable, I'm having a variable to copy it. So I'm writing x equal to my sum, and now you see what I'm doing. Okay, my sum, okay, my sum, and here what I'm having is that I'm just passing one value 10. Okay, I'm just passing one value 10, and now what I'm doing is that print the sum is, and here I'm writing x. Now you see what will happen. You see I'm getting the sum is 40. Can you see 30 plus 10, I'm getting 40. Earlier, if you remove this equal to, you just remove this equal to and then you run it, you are going to get an error. It is saying that my sum missing one required positional argument b. Now you are not giving it. But the moment you initialize it to a default value of 10, 20, 100, 50, whatever you wanted, and now even if you miss one of the argument because you have initialized only one, then also it is not going to have any error. Then also it is going to work absolutely fine, because now it is going to take this default value which you have given called 50. Now your question is that what if I give the other value? What will happen if I give 70? Will I still give me the result 60 or will it give me 80? So the answer is that it's going to give you 80. Why? Because the parameter that you are passing has a highest priority. If you are providing it, the default value, the initialized value is not going to be used. If you do not do that, then the default value will come into picture. This is what default argument is all about. Okay, so now proceeding further with it, and now the other thing that we were talking about is that, right, you can write a equal to 10 also, like that, right, a equal to 10 also. Okay, that also you can do, right, a equal to 10 also you can write. and you see now you are getting 100 plus 50. Why? Because you did not give the second one, so you can do that also, right? Or you can directly write 10 and another value. So that is completely up to you. But remember that when you are doing like that, the name of the variable should be same. That we will discuss later on. Right now we will not go into that. Few slides later we will discuss about that. Second example you see here, example 2, def print me name and age is equal to 22. Here also we are having a default value which is 22. Now when we are calling that function, we are giving name equal to John. We are not giving the second one, right? So what is going to give you? My name is John and age is 22. So the variable age is not passed into the function. However, the default value of age is considered in the function, which was 22. In the second case, we are giving age is equal to 10 and name equal to David. The value of age is overwritten here. 10 will be printed as age. Why? Because you gave 10, right? You gave 10. Okay, so this is how the default argument works. If you give, well and good. If you doesn't give, the default value will be used. Okay, now let's proceed about the other kind of argument, which is variable length argument. Okay, a variable length argument, which is a very important one. What is variable length argument? Okay, so in variable length argument, what happens is that in some large projects, sometimes we may not know the number of argument to be passed in advance. You might need, let's take an example that not always you need a sum of two number. Just now we created a sum of two number, right? But you might have to find sum of three number, four number, five number, seven number, 10 number, 20 number. What are you gonna do? Right? So in these kind of cases, the number of argument that you need is not known in advance, right? So in such cases, what Python allows you to do is that it provides us the flexibility to offer comma separated values which are internally treated as tuple. What you can do is that you can pass comma separated values which internally is being treated as a tuple at the function call. And by using the variable length argument, we can pass any number of argument, and that makes your life really easy. How do you do that? So at the function definition, we define the variable length argument using the star args, okay, as star and then the variable name. That args is nothing but argument, okay, that can be anything. It can be num 1 2 3, like not 1 2 3, num, name, whatever, right? Or you can simply write args also. That's a good habit that automatically suggests that you are using variable length argument. Let's take an example here. Here we are using a def keyword, print me, and a variable length argument. What we are doing here is that print type of passed argument is type names, and we are printing the message here for name in names and printing all of them. And here you see we are passing four names, John, David, Smith, Nick. But rather than this example that we have, let's take another example. Now we are going to make this function a variable length argument. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write asterisk arg. Now it become a variable length argument. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to find the sum of all the numbers. So I'm making a variable sum equal to 0. Since it is a variable length, I need to go to each of those arguments, and for that I need a for loop. So for I in iterable, what is my iterable here? My iterable is arg, because that is the one which is variable in length. And what I'm going to do now, sum equal to sum plus I, and then after the for loop is over, I'm going to return sum. Now you see here I'm passing 10 comma 20 comma 40, okay, and then I'm calling the function again my sum x equal to my sum, and here I'm passing 5 values 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6, okay, and then I'm printing the same message. And now you see your program is going to work exactly the same in both the cases. In the first case the answer is 40 plus 7 30 is 70, 70 plus 10 is 80, so you are getting 80. In the second case 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 3, 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15, 5 plus 15 plus 6 is 21, you are getting 21. Now you see you just have one function, just one function which can help you to find the sum of any numbers, sum of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want to find the sum of two numbers, bring it on. You want to find the sum of four numbers, bring it on. You want to find the sum of five numbers, bring it on. Why? Because you made it a variable length argument. Now you are not bounded by the number of argument you have. Your variable can the argument length number can vary. Variable length argument. That is the advantage. That is the beauty. Right? That is the beauty. You are not bounded by what? You are not bounded by something which is called as which is the number of parameter here, right? So this is what happens. Okay, so now so far what we have understood about the required argument, we have understood about the default argument, we have seen something called keyword, but I have not disclosed you that what is that keyword. Okay, and now we are talking about variable length argument. Okay, now let's proceed further and talk about another one. Okay, so in the above code we passed asterisk name as the variable length argument, and we call the function and passed values which are treated as tuple internally. I did not show you that it is being treated as tuple, right? So here if I print the type of, if I print the type of, the type of argument, you will see that it is printing you tuple. It is printing you tuple. See, class tuple. Can you see that? Class tuple, right? It is coming 2 times because we are calling function 2 times. That is the reason it is printing 2 times. But it's coming as print argument type is tuple. Internally it is being treated as a tuple. Okay. And how did we iterate it? We iterated it using for loop, because that's the only way we have to iterate through an iterable. Okay, so the tuple is an iterable sequence which is same as the list, and to print the given values we iterated argument names using for loop. Proceeding further and talking about keyword argument, which we were talking about. What is keyword argument? So Python allows us to call the function with the keyword argument. Now the question is that what is keyword argument? So keyword argument is nothing, it is your argument name. Okay, let's understand that. Now this kind of function call will enable us to pass the argument in random order. Now you do not have to worry about you. If you have noticed it, you might have seen here, in this example which I was taking here, you see first we have name and then we have age. This is the order that I have. But here when I am calling this function, you see first I am writing age and then we are writing name. If you wondered at that time that why this is happening and how this is possible, then you had a very sharp eye, first of all, and you are paying attention. But in case you missed it, no need to worry about. This was working. Why? Because it was a keyword argument. Okay, that was the reason it was working. Now coming back, so Python allows us to call the function with the keyword argument, and this kind of function call will enable us to pass the argument in random order. We can pass it in random order. The name of the argument is treated as the keyword. The name of the argument is treated as the keyword. The argument name that you are writing while defining the function, that becomes the keyword. Okay, so the name of the argument is treated as the keyword and matched in the function calling and definition. This keyword is being matched in the function calling and function definition. Okay, so in function definition you declared a variable called name, argument as name. In the function call, do you have a variable called name? Are you passing that? Doesn't matter which order it is. Name means name. It is gonna match like that. Okay. So if the same match is found, the values of the argument are copied in the function definition. If the same match is found, if not, then you are going to be in trouble, right? Then you are going to be in trouble. Let's take this example. Here we have a function called def. Func is the function name. Def is the keyword. Two parameter, two argument we have, name and message. Okay, name and message, these are the two arguments that we have. Now what is happening here is that when we are printing, what we are doing inside the function, we are just printing a message, printing the message with name and message. This is what we are doing. Now when we are calling the function, here we are giving name equal to John and message is equal to hello. We are giving in the same order, name equal to John, message is equal to hello. Same order, first is name, second is message, right? Let's try this one out. Let's try this one out. And here let's create a function def and my function, which is gonna have what? Which is gonna have two default argument called name and message. Okay, two argument, it is having name and message. Now in the function what I'm doing is that I'm writing hi and then I'm writing name and then I'm writing message is and I'm writing message. This is the only thing I'm doing. Now I'm calling this function. In the function call what I'm doing is that I'm passing Vivek. Okay, not like that, but like name equal to Vivek, and then the second one that I'm passing is that comma message is equal to how are you. Okay, now let's run. Can you see hi Vivek, message is how are you, it is coming. So name being copied to name, message being copied to message. This is how it works. If I change this to message and if I change this to name, now what is going to happen, right? Now also you see hi, how are you, message is Vivek. This time I change the order. First I am giving message now, second I am giving name, but name being copied to name, because while printing you see we are printing hi name, but here we gave name as how are you. So it is giving you hi, how are you. Can you see hi, how are you? And message is Vivek. So this is what happens with the keyword argument. The order can be random. Okay, it can be in random order. The order doesn't matter much. Why? Because you are providing the keyword. So keyword is being matched. Doesn't matter where that keyword arises, first, second, third, doesn't matter much. But it should be the same. What if I change the name to name one? What will happen? Now you see it is gonna give me an error. My function got an expected keyword argument name one. You did not mention name one, but now you are giving name one. This is the one, and now you see keyword argument, right? So keyword argument, that is the important point to understand. It should be the same, it cannot be different. So we understood this example. Second thing, providing the values in different order at the function calling. You see here, we created a function called simple interest PTR, which you have already created before, right? Same thing, and here we are using is called with the keyword argument. And the argument, a keyword argument, the order of the argument doesn't matter in this case. Define simple interest PTR, return P multiplied by T multiplied by R divided by 100, simple interest, T equal to 10 you are giving, R equal to 10 you are giving, P is equal to 90. Here you see first you had P, then you had T, then you had R, but here you are giving it in random order, and then it is not going to make any difference, right? So this is how the keyword argument works, because it is going to match T. Where is T? There is T. So T is going to have a value called 10. Where is R? R is here. So R is going to have a value called 10. Where is P? Here is P. So P is going to have a value of 1900. This is how it works. It matches. Okay, it matches. So this is the simple one. I'm not writing this code in the editor. Proceeding further. Now, if we provide the different name of argument at the time of function call, which we have already seen, an error will be thrown, which we have already encountered, right? Look at this example here. We are declaring a function simple interest with PTR, returning P multiplied by T multiplied by R by 100. And while calling the function, we are writing time, though there is nothing, no keyword called time, there is no keyword called rate, there is no keyword called principal, but we are writing that. What we will get? Simple interest got an expected keyword argument time. It is simply going to give you that message without thinking even twice about it. If you are using keyword, match the keyword. If you cannot match the keyword, don't use keyword. As simple as that. Okay. Now look at this example here. So here the function simple interest PTR is called with the keyword argument, and this is the same example that is there, right? Same example which we have seen before, same example, nothing different, right? So here it is going to give you what? It is going to give you a message. It is going to give you a message that it got an expected keyword argument call time. Now let's talk about the bestest of all, I can say that, okay, the bestest of all. The Python allows us to mix the required argument and keyword argument at the time of function call. You can have a mixture of both of them. You can mix the required argument with the keyword argument at the time of function call. However, the required argument must not be given after the keyword argument. This is the best of all, but at the same time, this is a very complicated one also. You can have a mixture of the required argument and the keyword argument. It means what? Not necessarily you should have all the variable, all the parameter passed as a keyword. You can pass them as a required key also. But the required argument must not be given after the keyword argument, because the moment Python encounters a keyword argument, after that it cannot accept any other thing as a positional or a required argument. It cannot accept it. It can accept another keyword argument, that is valid, that is fair, but it cannot accept any required argument. That is, once the keyword argument is encountered in the function call, the following argument must also be a keyword argument. In a simple word, the rest other argument must also be a keyword argument. So if you want to give a required argument, keep it first, and then after that you give the keyword argument. Look at this example here. Here we are defining a function name, message, name2. These are the three parameters we have. We are printing the message with name1, message, name2, we are printing everything. In the function call, you see, we are passing John. Okay, we are passing John. So John will be copied to what? John will be copied to name, because it is not a keyword argument. See here, there is no keyword we have mentioned. It is just a required argument. Second, we are writing message is equal to hello. So it is a keyword argument, so it will be copied to message. Now we are writing name2 is equal to David. So where is name2? Name2 is here, so it will be copied to David. And when you print this, you are going to get hello, David and John. Let's run this program. Let's run this program. Let's have name 1. Let's have first name, comma, last name, comma, and you have a variable called age. Okay, here first name, hi first name comma last name, okay, and then we are giving a message, okay, your age is, and here we are giving a message called age. Now here what I'm doing is that when I'm calling this function, okay, when I'm calling this function, I'm giving the first name as Vivek, okay, which I'm not giving as a keyword argument because I did not write first name equal to, so it is just a required argument. Then I'm writing last name equal to Gaurav, this I'm making as a keyword argument, and age I'm making as a keyword argument equal to 30. Now you see it will run absolutely fine. Hi Vivek Gaurav, your age is 30. The first one is a required argument. It did not work as a keyword argument because I did not mention first name equal to. It worked absolutely fine, right? Now let's proceed further and look at the second example. Now this example will cause an error. This example which we are discussing here is going to cause an error. Why? Due to an improper mix of keyword and required argument being passed into the function. Same function, name 1, message name 2, right? Doing the same thing printing, but see, when calling the function, we are writing name equal to name John. This is just a required argument. So John will be copied to name. Then we are using message is equal to hello. It is a keyword argument. So message will be copied. Then we are writing a required argument. We are not using keyword, and this is going to give you an error that positional argument follows keyword argument. This is what the error you will get. So here in our code, if I remove this age is equal to 30, if I remove this age is equal to 30, now only you can see there is a underline error. What is saying? Positional argument cannot appear after our keyword argument. You cannot give a positional argument or a required argument after you have used a keyword argument. You cannot do like that. If you want, you take it before. If you want, you take it before. Python doesn't have a problem with that. If you want, you take it before. You take it like this. You take it like this. Okay, you give Vivek comma 30 comma last name. You run the code. You are gonna give an error. Why? Because here you are gonna, here is gonna be a mismatch. Here it is gonna be a mismatch, right? It is okay. Second argument, it was accepting as a last name, right? And then we have mentioned that is the reason it is happening, right? Here let's change it. So here it is giving you that got multiple argument of last name. It has got a multiple argument of the last name. So that anyway is not possible. What I can do is that I can do something like this. I can keep the second argument also as like this, okay, and then what I can do is that I can use something like this, age is equal to 30. This is gonna work absolutely fine. Hello Vivek Gaurav, your age is 30. But the moment you put anything before after the keyword argument, problem arises over there. The problem arises over there. Okay. Here also, if I put this age is equal to here, if I put this over here, and then I put a comma, then also the same error will come because now I have used a keyword argument here, and after that I am giving a positional argument. So positional argument cannot appear after the keyword argument. So now I hope that you are understanding what I am trying to say. The moment you use the keyword argument, after that do not give a positional argument. Keyword argument should be the last argument. If you want to give after the keyword argument, you use another keyword argument like this, last name equal to Gaurav. This is absolutely fine. Python will understand everything. It will give you the same message, right? It is going to understand that. It is going to work absolutely fine, right? But after you have used a keyword argument, nothing should come after that. Remember that in mind, okay? So now proceeding further. Now, now Python provides the facility to pass multiple keywords argument also. It provides you another additional thing. What is that? Multiple keyword argument, which can be represented as 2 asterisk symbol and then KWArgs, keyword argument, multiple keyword argument. It is similar as the args, but it stores the argument in the dictionary format. What it does is that it stores the argument in a dictionary format, key value, key value, key value. And this type of argument is useful when we do not know the number of argument in advance. When you are not sure about how many number of argument you need, just use the multiple keyword argument. It is going to work absolutely fine. How does it work? Let's say take an example. So here you see many using keyword argument. Here we use dev food, and then we have used multiple keyword argument, right? So here we are printing that. We are just printing that. What we did is that food A equal to apple. So here the keyword is what? Keyword is A. What is the value for that? Apple. Second time when I am calling it, I am writing fruit equal to orange, vegetable is equal to carrot, right? So now fruit is the keyword, orange is the value, vegetable is the keyword, carrot is the value. When you are printing, when the function is being called, you see it is coming in the form of a dictionary. Can you see that? It is coming in the form of a dictionary, colon value, right? Key value, right? And like that you can have many things. Let's try to run this program. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that def and then my function, this is the name of the function, star star kwargs or anything name, whatever, doesn't matter, and I'm directly going to print name here. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to call this function my fun, okay, and I'm going to write first name equal to, and then I'm going to write Vivek. I'm going to call the same function this time first name equal to Vivek, and then I'm going to give another one last name equal to Gaurav, and then I'm call the function again function, and then I'm going to use the same thing, but this time I'm going to pass 3 keyword argument. Okay, 3 keyword argument, comma age is equal to 30. Now you see what will happen. Your program is running absolutely fine in all the 3 cases, but you are getting in the form of a dictionary. First name colon Vivek, first name colon Vivek, last name colon Gaurav, first name colon Vivek, last name colon Gaurav, age colon 30, right? So in the default multiple keyword argument, what happens? Your value, your value is being stored in the form of a dictionary. This is what happens in the form of a multiple keyword argument. Now coming to the next topic and the last topic of today's video, which is called scope of variable. So what is scope of a variable? So the scope of a variable depend on the location where the variable is being declared. Scope means accessibility, where that variable can be accessed. What is the range of that variable? Range in the sense not that range function. Range means till where it is valid. What is the validity of that? Like, that let's suppose that you people know you in your locality. If you go to a different city, people do not know you, right? So the scope of yours, I can say that your locality, your surrounding, your relatives, your friends, your family, your neighbor, nothing more than that, right? But if you go to a different one, but let's suppose Virat Kohli, everyone knows him, Rohit Sharma, everyone knows him, right? So their scope is global, our scope is local, right? Our scope is local, we are locally known in a society, not more than that, but their scope is global, everyone knows them, right? Like that also we have 2 kind of variables, which is called global variable, local variable. So the scope of a variable depend upon the location where the variable is being declared, where it is being declared. The variable declared in one part of the program may not be accessible to the other part of the program. So in Python, the variable are declared with 2 types of scope. One is called global variable, the other is called local variable. And the variable defined outside any function is known to have a global scope. If you declare a variable outside the scope, because outside a function, because inside a function it is a block, right? So it is valid only in that block. But if you declare it outside, it means throughout the program it is available, it can be used, okay? Whereas the variable defined inside a function is known to have a local scope, the variable declared outside a function is known to have a global scope. Let's take this example here. Here we have declared a variable function called def print message, and we have a variable here called message, and we are writing hello, and then we are printing the message. So here we can access this variable message inside the function because this is a local one. But if you try after the function has been called and then you are trying to print a message, you are going to get an error. Why? Because function message was a local variable that you created. It is not available outside. It is not available outside. So you are going to get name message is not defined. Okay, like here only. Okay, let's create def and then my fun. Okay, and here we no parameter required. Here I'm just having a message is equal to hello. Okay, and then I'm just printing this message, simple, right? And here I'm gonna call my function I called, and then I'm trying to access message. It is gonna give me error now only, you see. It is gonna give me message is not defined. Then also, if I try to run it, I'm gonna get the same thing. The message is not defined. Why? Because it was a local one. Why it was a local one? Because you declared it inside this scope, inside this one, inside this block. So it was available only till here. After that, it is not available. Okay, after that it is not available. Okay, how do you make a global one? That is the next question. So that can be answered. You see here we created a variable called def calculate sum equal to 0. There is a variable that we created here, and then for arg in argument we are adding sum equal to sum plus arg. This is a program that we have already made, right? Variable length argument, right? And now you see there is another variable called sum. Can you see there is another variable called sum? And now we are calling the function 10, 20, 30, we will get 60 because sum is going to give you 60 here. But if you call the value of sum outside the function, you are going to get 0. Why you are going to get 0? Let's try to understand that. Okay, let's try to understand that here. So let me create a function called my sum. Okay, here a variable length argument I am creating, and then here I am creating sum equal to 0, and here I am writing for I in arg, and I am writing sum equal to sum plus I, and then I am printing here, print the sum is, okay, the sum is, and here I am printing sum. Now what I am doing is that here I am writing sum equal to 0. This is what I am doing. And then what I am doing is that I am calling that function my sum. So directly I will write print, okay, why print my sum. I directly call that function, and I call it with 10, 20, 30. This is what the 3 variable I passed it. And then if I try to find the sum is, okay, and here I print the sum, here I will get it 0. You see, I am getting one sum, the sum is 60, which is inside here, okay, the sum, or I can say that sum inside the function, okay, so that you can easily notice. You see, the sum inside the function is 60, but outside is 0, though they have the same one. But the point that you need to understand here is that, are they referring to the same object? Let's try to find that. Let's try to find that using the id function. Print id of sum, okay, and here also print the id of sum. Print id of sum, and now you see what happens. You see, the two id that we have, 198531274677768, right, it is same only, but why it referred to a different object then? But why it referred? Because still here when we are printing the id, it is same. Let me copy from here and paste it after we are printing the sum. Now you see the id will be different, because now it is pointing to a different one. Can you see now the id is different? Here it is 78448, it is 88048. Now the id has different, right? So what happened is that, yes, at one point of time they were referring to the same one, but later on what happened is that the one which was inside the function, it referred to a different one, and the one which was outside a function, that referred to a different one. That is the reason two different IDs there. So it might have the same name, but they are referring to two different objects. Okay, so scope means using it. It doesn't mean that the same value is going to be used. Now this happens in Python. In other programming language, if you have it, outside the scope of that, it will retain its value if it is a global variable. If it retains its value. But here in Python specifically, right? What is happening is that, let me correct you here. Let me correct myself, not correct you. Since it is a function, if I talk about global and local variable in terms of a normal flow, like in a loop or something, there the value will be retained. But here it is not, because it is jumping from one place to the another. It is jumping from one place. So this is a different scope altogether. It's a different city, and it is a different one. So even if it is a global one, whatever you are doing inside the function, it is not going to get affected by that. We already saw that. If you want to see, let's say, what will happen if I put it above here, then also you will see that, then also nothing much is getting deferred. You see, then now also it is still showing you 0. Now also it is still showing you 0. Okay. And if I run the program and show you, if I debug the program, then you will see that there are two variables with the same name is getting created. One is having a local reference, the other is having a global reference. You see, one is local, the other is global. Can you see both having the 0 value now? Now, when we printed the ID, and after that if I go inside the function, right, you see inside the global we do not have anything, local also we do not have anything as of now, right? Now you see what I am doing is that I am going next, and now sum will come into picture, and the sum value will keep on changing. Sum became 10 now, right? Now sum became 20, and now sum became 30, right? So it is changing. And now once it is done, it comes back to the next line. See, the local variable has become 0 now. The local variable has become 0 now. Why the local variable has become 0? Because that variable went out of scope, right? It was created only, it was active only as long as the function was working, as long as the function was called. The moment it come to the next line, that variable got destroyed, okay? The moment it came out of the function, that variable got destroyed, so it again became 0, and that is the reason, that is one of the reason why it is coming as 0. That is one of the reason why it is coming as 0. If I will talk about loop and there I try to use it, then you won't have the problem. Okay, let me just show you this one example to you, and then you will have understand it in a better way. So for function you understood, right? Now let's talk about global variable. So here I am writing I equal to 1. Now you see I am creating a variable I less than equal to 10, okay, and here I'm creating j is equal to 1, and then what I'm trying to do is that, okay, I'm just trying to, okay, why I less than equal to 10, I less than equal to 2, I'm just writing that, okay, and then what I'm doing is that, or why, okay, chalo theek hai, print print I, okay, and j, okay, this is what I am doing, print I and j, okay, and what I will do is that I equal to I plus 1, I'll just increase the value of I by 1 so that it comes out of the loop. And here if I print the value of I and j outside the loop is, okay, outside the loop is I, j, okay, I and j, okay, and here if I print the same message, if I print the same message here as well, if I print the same message here as well, now you see what is going to happen. You see the value of I and j inside the function is 1 1, the value of I and j outside the function is 1 1, the value of I and j outside the loop, okay, inside I have to do, right, inside I have to do na, this is inside, and here also let me increase the value of j plus 1, okay. Now you see here this j is a local one, this j is a local one which we created here, right, it is like outside outside this, right, outside this is one complete function that we are referring to, this is referred as main function. There also if I run it, you see we are having the same value of, like, inside the function the value of I inside the loop is 1 and 1, for the first time is 1 and 1, then for the second time the value of I and j inside the loop is 2 and 1, then the value of I and j outside is j and is 3 and 2, right. So this is what we are getting, okay, since we declare, initialize it 1 every time, so that's the reason it is coming as 1 every time. So basically global means what, where it is accessible outside the function also, local means what, where it is accessible within a particular block, this is what it means, okay. So I hope that the global and local is clear now. Here you can see that clearly it is not, it is retaining its value, j and I both of them are retaining its value, right, but in function it was a different jump, it was a different overhead altogether, right. So do not get confused by the local and global reference to function with reference to in the same program, do not get confused by that. Understand that global is something which can be accessed outside the function, which has a larger scope, which can be used anywhere in the program. Local is that which is you are bounding to a particular boundary, which is whether it is a function or the block or something like that, okay. Try to understand it in that aspect. So I hope that you understood the complete function, the type of the type of function and the user defined function in particular. You know how to create a function now, you understand what is the parameter, you understand the types of parameter, and you understand the return type, and you understand the scope of a variable. So that's all in this video. Thank you so much.